Firstly, what I didn't explain in the first part of this tutorial was that the remember me function works by if the remember me is selected, then a cookie is set with an expiration of 48 hours. In this case, you can set it to whatever amount of time you want. It's in seconds, so however many seconds you like. And if it isn't checked, therefore they don't want to be remembered, a session is set. Now a session will terminate, if you like, as soon as the browser is closed. So not just that window of the browser, but all browser windows that are open, the session will be terminated, and when the user goes back on, they will then be logged out. A cookie will always remain saved unless the user clears their cookies inside their browser. So you can go to like tools, options, I'm using Firefox, or clear recent history. I'm not sure how to do it because I don't have to do it that often, but yeah, if you know the user, they'll remain logged in. So that's basically how that works, but I'm sure most of you already knew that. I just thought I'd clarify it. Okay, now I'm not going to waste time in this second part of the tutorial setting up my database. All I've done, I'll quickly explain, is I have a database called Remember Me. This is obviously going to be your website's database, or your user area database of your website. Then I have a table called users. I've got 3 fields. One is ID. This is auto increment. So for each row that's inserted, this is going to increment. So the next one will be 2, and then 3, and then 4, 5, and so on. It's also the primary key, which is required when you're using auto increment. It might be listed as AI if you're using a different version of phpMyAdmin. So if there's an AI checkbox, you need to check that. Username is actually, let me come into the structure just so you can see this. The username, you see we've got int here for the type of the ID. Makes sense since it's a number, an integer. And then we've got auto increment, and we've also, you can't see here, but this is set as a primary key. Username, we've got varchar, maximum length 25. Obviously this is up to you. Password, now this is important. It's encrypted MD5 using MD5 encryption. So we're using 32 length because they are 32-bit. Sorry, the length of the MD5 hash will be 32 bits. So you're going to need to write the 32 for the length of that varchar. Okay, and then basically all I did was I clicked insert, and the result of that was, if you click browse, you'll see I've put Alex, and then my password is in there. What I did to gain this password, this is basically 123. I used a free MD5 string encryptor. It encrypts a string, a plain text string, to an MD5 hash. And then basically I just pasted that in there. 32 length of this, 32 bits. So yeah, that's all in there, and we're ready to go. Okay, so inside context, the first thing we're going to be creating is the login form. Okay, so I'm going to create my PHP tags just up here quickly, just so I know that I'm going to add some data in there. And I'm going to start creating my form. Okay, I'll start the form and end the form. And the action is going to be itself, so we're going to do login.php. This is going to be processed up here. And the method is going to be post, because we're using post data, as we're going to be dealing with private data, if you like, with the password. Okay, so now let's just set this up. Username, breakdown. We need a text field, and the name of this is going to be username. Obviously you can choose the names of the thing as long as you match it up when you're validating in PHP. And then I'm going to do a paragraph breakdown. I'm going to have the word password, and then a breakdown, and then I'm going to have an input type, and this time this is going to be password, as we're going to have it sort of starred out, if you like. And then we're going to have password for the name of this too. The reason I'm doing this quickly, by the way, is just plainly because it's not important to what I'm doing. If you need to learn HTML, then I always recommend you go and do that first. Okay, so with paragraph down, this time what we're going to have is we're going to have an input type of a checkbox. Okay, so this is our remember me checkbox, and the name of this is going to be remember me. And then afterwards we're going to write remember me, just so the checkbox is next to that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to break down and we're going to do the input. I'll just come here and I'll do input type, and this is going to be our submit button. The name of this is going to be login, so we can process whether the button has been pressed, and then the value of this is going to be login. Okay, so if we come into our browser and we can preview that, that's the login.php page. You can see that we've pretty much got a setup how we'd want it. Okay, so at the moment this is doing nothing. All we're doing is clicking. We can select this box, we can click, but it's, you know, evidently it's going back to the login.php page, which is where we need to process up here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to write is we're going to say if $_post login. That means basically this is this submit button. We've given it the name of login, remember, so it matches up here. That basically means has this been pressed, so does it have a value, and the value of this will ultimately be login, but I'm sure you knew that by now. Okay, now what we're going to do is get the data, and this includes the username, and that is $_post and username, and we have the password $_post password. Remember, we're using $_post because this is our array of everything that has been posted from the previous form. Obviously, if you're using get, then we'll have get in place, but we are definitely using post here. And then we're going to have the remember me, and that's going to be exactly the same. Even though it's a checkbox, we're going to use exactly the same structure. Just remember to use the same name as you've given it inside here. So this is called remember me. Now, just a word of advice before we begin, just so you know, when this is posted and it comes through for validation, if the checkbox has been checked, the value of this will be sent as on. It's just two letters, O-N, on, the word on. It basically means that the button has been pressed, or checked rather. If it hasn't been checked, then it doesn't send a value at all, so it will be absolutely nothing. So it's just a blank, a blank submission. So we're going to be using that later to determine whether the user wants to be remembered or doesn't want to be remembered. Okay, so now we're going to have a bit of form validation, and we're going to say username, password. Basically what this is doing is it's checking for the username and the password, and then we're going to come down with our curly brackets, and we're going to validate, or rather continue the code inside this block if username and password has been have both been entered, because we need a username and a password to be able to validate from the database. And then I'm going to say otherwise what we could do is we'll just say die. We'll kill the script and then go please enter a user name and password. Okay, and the user will have to hit back because we've killed the script, and none of this will be executed. For security reasons, what we can do is we can also issue the exit command so the rest of the script isn't processed, because some browsers are modified to ignore things like this. I think, I'm not sure. Maybe send me a comment or a message and let me know about that one. Okay, so now what we've done is, in fact, I know that this isn't required. I actually know that that's not required. So we can ignore our block. We've just got one line of command under our else. Okay, so I'm sort of running out of time for this tutorial, but in the next part we're going to be processing our login. We're going to be connecting to the database. We're going to be putting that in outside our functions.php, and then inside here we're going to be checking the username and password against the database, and then logging the user in depending on whether they've checked remember me or they haven't checked remember me. So check out the next part for that.